Good evening and welcome to the Town of Somers work session, Thursday, May 2nd. If you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Okay, we're going to begin tonight's agenda with public comment. Public comment is limited to a 3-minute statement, and we want to hear from Somers residents. So if you're not a Somers resident and you signed in to talk, we're going to defer until we get Somers residents heard from. So I'll make a motion to give the clerk. I'll make a motion to open public comment.
Second.
Give it to the clerk.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay, is there anyone here from Somers for public comment?
I have the list, so it would be Flo.
There you go.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah,
Is
you
this
can take it
working?
out of there, Phil, if you want.
Is that
There you
working?
go.
Yeah.
Anything you want.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
In the name of other Somers senior citizens, including 10 of my friends who asked me to speak for them, I want to thank the governor and the legislature for passing the bill that safeguards women's health, and thank this town board for its rightful decision not to be bullied. Thank you.
Thanks, Flo.
Thank you for your comment.
That's the only Somers resident.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board?
Close public.
Well, actually, I'm sorry, let me ask.
There-
Is Dwight Arthur, are you a Somers resident or a Mapac? Thank you. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to just defer to our town attorney.
You have a hand over there.
Well,
Well,
the law in New York is public comment is a privilege. It's not a right at a municipal meeting. And although Somers has public comment periods, they're subject to the rules of the supervisor. And as I understand it, and supported by the town board, the rule will be going forward that only Somers residents can speak during the public comment period. So assuming you want to take that position, it's a legal position to take.
That's the position I would take.
yeah, well, this is a work session, and we have a full agenda to get through.
You do?
So, that's why we're limiting it to hearing from Somers residents.
Okay. I make motion to close public hearing.
May I ask a question? Because many of us came because of your last work session, where you actually allowed people from Putnam to speak, and many of us came based on that precedent that you had other people speak.
Okay, so ma'am, that was a work session a month ago. We had a meeting after that, a regular meeting, at which time I read a statement regarding the town board's decision not to get involved in state matters. So it's unfortunate that you had to make the trip here, but it was publicized in the newspaper, on social media, and also on Tap Into Somers and Mayapack.
I came to thank you tonight.
Okay.
Well, thank you, we appreciate that, but
I'll
we
take
still
that.
have a full agenda.
I'll take that as a thank you. And I do want to thank, but I do also want to thank everyone that came out tonight to express, just being here physically, this is a very emotional topic. We understand there's two sides to it. We do not feel this is the venue to have this debate. Councilman Clinch, you want to add anything to that?
Well, if you have statements, ma'am, that you want to give to us, feel free to give them to the town clerk. If you'd like us to receive that, we'd be happy to. The point is that this should not be construed one way or the other as taking a position on the state law. It is our position in this and other matters, regardless of which way one would favor on this or other matters, that the town is here to deal with town issues. And to go beyond that would be, we think, perhaps misusing our position. And some people might say, well, isn't it a moral case that you should speak out about? And of course, we all respect anyone who speaks on the out of a matter of principle rather than self-interest. We need more of that in the country, certainly. But it is not, people who have not elected us to sit up here and to use it to espouse our personal moral position unless it has something to do with the town. Now, each of us, of course, has a right and perhaps a duty as a citizen in our private and our personal lives to involve ourselves in activities. But you know, whether it be the war in Yemen, it could be poverty in cities, and it could be educational opportunity, or any one of the very controversial issues, climate change on down. And of course, we all have positions on those things. But it is our belief that we best serve Somers when we limit ourselves to Somers issues. And we do not always have unanimity on our board about Somers issues or issues outside of Somers. But we do our best work when we limit our discussions to what we can do to help Somers and what's the best path ahead. And believe me, there's enough controversies there to keep us busy with those issues. So I think that's the position of the town board, and that's why the supervisor issued that statement. So just if there are anyone who's wondering about it, that's what we're saying tonight, and that is what we have said in the past about issues that do arouse the natural emotions of people about a variety of things. But that's been our issue that's been our stand in the past, and that is our stand now. It will be our stand in the future, at least while we are sitting in these seats.
Right. Thank you. So I have a motion to close public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, our next agenda item is a discussion of the Westchester County Organic Yard Waste Management Program, IMA. So in very few words or less, this is an agreement that the county is offering its non-members. We are not a member of the county's environmental facilities refuse program, but this is an opportunity that they're offering non-members to join via this IMA. Now, my reading of this is if we had an organic waste program established in town and we had a location where organic waste was accumulating and there was a need to get rid of it, then it would make sense to get into this program. But I don't see a value at this point, and I'll listen to any other contradictory opinions on it.
I don't contradict it. I think that, I don't see, I mean, we really haven't had a need for it, I don't think. You know, 1 acre zoning, and folks are handling organic disposals within their property. This would require an investment on our part. We'd have to hire staff. We have to set aside a site. And, you know, I've not seen any, you know, general need for this, so I would say no.
Okay. If there's,
No, I would agree with Anthony.
okay. Yep, Flo, you want to,
Yeah.
use your mic.
You know the drill.
Okay, I just wondered whether they were opening the household recovery maintenance to us as well.
I'm sorry, Phil, what's that?
I was wondering whether the Westchester County is also offering the household recovery, because we're not a member of that either.
No, this is specific to the organic, let's see, is there anything?
Their proposal is establish a transfer site, a transfer station, and essentially we would have to man it, local people would go there, and then there would be certain prerequisites about capital improvements, traffic coming in and out of it, you know, and the like, equipment requirements.
Right, and then we pay $52.36 per ton to have it removed.
Then there would be insurance, staffing, you know, state prevailing wages, all that.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because, you know, we haven't been a member of the household recovery. And I just wondered, since they've opened this up, would they perhaps open the other?
We can inquire
Would
as
you?
to
Well-
that, but
Yeah.
You know, the county just had that household recycling day over in Yorktown.
Yeah, but that's-
Everybody can go to that.
Right, but that's one day.
Now, down in Valhalla, I've been there. I
I've been-
brought stuff.
Yeah.
So don't let anybody hear me.
But this is not recyclable.
No, but the point is, we and a few other northern Westchester towns have opted out. Why, I don't know. This was before this board was in effect. So I just wondered, since they're opening this up, this part of it,
Right,
maybe you
right.
could ask about the other.
There's nothing in that, but if you're looking at that facility, they've been welcoming, that's all I can say. Well, they have at least.
okay, thank you, Flo.
Thanks, Flo.
Tell them you know George Latimer over there.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is Energize New York Open C-PACE discussion. Now, we've had a prior discussion about this, and we did opt into the program as described at that time. This is yet another one, Roland? This is another
This is a
maturation of the program?
This is another program for commercial properties only, by the way. And the change, the difference is that for this program to work, the lender who's in the superior position has to agree to subordinate themselves to let this finance agreement go ahead of it.
Yeah,
And
to the town and the
I
whole-
think it's wildly impractical to think that this is going to work. Mortgages get bundled, especially commercial mortgages.
Right.
You just aren't going to find a person that's got the authority to sign it, even if it was a bank policy.
Yeah, so they would have to subordinate the bank loan
Yeah.
to this, so that's almost, but let me ask you this, the one that
So
we
it's
signed,
ill-conceived, in my opinion.
Has it worked in other towns? I know they've talked about this when they had energized
know of any other
for
towns that-
homeowners, and they said, well, businesses are not included, but we're going to do that.
Sarah here?
Okay, well, yes, since we do have a representative.
Yep.
Yes, Sarah, come on up.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
are.
that's better, right?
I'm sorry, we didn't want to speak
right.
over you.
There you are.
I brought a flyer, I don't know if you already have this.
You could certainly hand it out again. So I'm going to ask you in the simplest of terms to explain the difference between what we did agree to and get into our current program versus, does this change our existing, or is this an add-on?
Sure. So first, my name is Sarah Smiley. I'm Director of Member Services for the Energy Improvement Corporation, also EIC, commonly known as Energize New York. And we are the nonprofit statewide local development corporation that implements the Property Assessed Clean Energy, or PACE, finance program on behalf of our member municipalities across the state. And yes, the reason I'm here tonight is because we're launching a new product called Open C-PACE, which will better serve the needs of our municipalities and also facilitate more impactful clean energy projects. I thought I could give a little bit of would it help to give a little bit of background about PACE, just to give context, but I'll do it quickly. So PACE is financing. It's an alternative form of capital used by commercial and nonprofit building owners to fund energy efficiency improvements or renewable energy installations. And it can be used for 100% of the project's cost and can be repaid over the expected life of the improvements, which are generally 20 to 30 years. And it transfers to the new owner if the property is sold. So those are some of the unique components of PACE financing. And PACE is a public benefit authorized by state law, which enables municipalities to secure repayment of the financing through a special assessment lien on the improved property. And so EIC is the administrator for this program on behalf of our municipalities. So the new program, Open C-PACE, removes any administrative or financial obligations from the municipality while still enabling you to offer this public benefit. We have created a separate lien for the PACE charge. So under the old program, it had to go on the tax bill of the property, and it was on par with municipal taxes. So even though this is a municipal-based lien enabled by the municipality, we as the administrator are subordinating the PACE lien across the board to municipal taxes. So it is not dependent on the capital provider agreeing to do that. The only way they can participate in our program is by accepting those terms. So the PACE lien is junior to municipal taxes, and just as it was in the previous PACE program, it is senior to non-municipal liens. So we do require lender consent if there are any mortgages on the property. And this has been in development with, through conversations with capital providers, other PACE program administrators, with NYSERDA. We have a CPACE advisory board. So,
I just have
yes,
one
go
quick
ahead, of
question.
course.
What you just said, so if somebody were to take one of these loans out, it would be senior to the actual mortgage on the house?
Correct.
And
Not on a
mortgage?
house, on a building.
Right, yes,
Commercial.
thank you. This is just
I know,
for
but-
commercial
and-
properties.
And mortgage
And the mortgage
companies are
company.
okay with that?
No, they would have to, the
I
mortgage
know they would have
company.
to say that. I just can't imagine why they would
Yeah.
want to.
And it also would extend to private mortgages. If you own the gas station down the street and I lent you $100,000 and then you went to them to get $100,000 for improvements, my $100,000 that I lent to you, I would be asked to consent to have it be subordinate to their $100,000.
And are you having success with that?
Well, we, under the old
could say
program, I'm sorry?
You could say no.
Correct.
And I think you would.
Yeah, I would. That's what I'm saying. I just don't
I
see how
just don't
anybody
know
would
how this is
say,
supposed to
if
work.
somebody had a large mortgage, I don't see how any mortgage lender would say, yeah, I'll become subordinate to this new one. I just don't see that happening.
Well, the old program had that requirement, and we did get lender consent. And this is best practice across PACE programs in other states around the country as well. So, lending institutions are giving consent to the PACE charge, and from the our original underwriting criteria was developed in conversation with lending institutions. So one benefit to the mortgage holder is that the property is improved, their collateral is improved, and these and the benefit to the municipality as well as to the property owners is that under this new open CPACE program, we have capital coming in from national developers who have been approved to participate in our program. So it's a way to bring in capital to make improvements to the building stock without creating any obligation or risk on the part of the municipality. And as you said, like the mortgage holder could say no if they did not want this PACE charge on their property, but this is often used for developers who are maybe redeveloping an old building. Maybe it's changing the use of a building. If it's been vacant, it's now being redeveloped. The PACE lenders use it to finance the energy component of the development project. So it's typically, one aspect of a layered capital stack. And because it's over a long term, it makes it more affordable to do much more deeper energy improvement work to the building because they can pay it off for up to 30 years.
So are you saying that I'm sorry.
Just want to clarify a
Sure.
point. The old program, is that sunsetted now?
Correct. So we are not accepting any new applications under the old
So
program.
just under that, we signed up for the old program, and we went through this review about a couple of months ago, and it just came to our attention. We were talking about the fact that we were actually securing those loans if in fact that was happening, and we said, look, I don't think we should put the town in that place. Now, all that being said, you have not come forward with a successful project in the town that would have been done under that prior product or agreement. So I'm thinking right now, that's sunset, that's out of the way, right? We're
That's
not going to do
correct.
any of that.
Right.
So we're considering a new project now, which is going to essentially not put the town in between the loan holder, the bank. We have no security, we're not securing the loan at all. Is that right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so do your presentation. There are some obligations that the town has, even though within this, I'd like you to clarify what they are as you go
Okay.
through this, okay?
Okay.
Let me just ask you this
sure.
question first. So the worst case scenario is that no commercial property who's interested in this will get the lenders to that property to agree to this, and so nothing will happen. Is that the worst case scenario?
Correct. It is possible that there won't be any projects done in the town.
I mean, that would be the worst thing.
From our point of view, because we want these projects to
Right.
get done. But yes, there's nothing. if a project were financed, the town would not be on the hook for any payments that the property owner is owing to the capital
And so
provider.
a mortgage holder, or if our town attorney loans someone money for their business, the worst they would have to agree to take on that possibility, but they would say no if they thought, heck no, I'm not going to do that. This business may go under.
Correct.
I just want to make sure I understand this right.
Yes. So the capital providers will be doing the underwriting of the property owner, and AIC's role is to confirm that the project adheres to NYSERDA's commercial PACE guidelines to make sure the project qualifies and that it complies with the local and state law. But the capital provider is the one who determines if they make financing available and how much they make available.
Now, you say you have a nationwide network of financial institutions. That how much altogether has been committed to this? Are we into the billions or the millions or what?
That's we have, I would say, a pipeline of projects. So in order to get these off the ground, all municipalities have to enact this new local law. So we don't have any completed projects under this
And
new
would
product.
you have at this time, for example, if I'm a business here in town, I want to do it, and I hear this, I go, hey, that sounds pretty good to me. Do you have an idea what those interest rates would be and how much below, or I assume below market value? When I did Energize on my house, it was below what I could get in a commercial, from the bank or whatever. Do you know what those would be now, or it's still too
Are the
early?
loans subsidized?
The loans are not subsidized.
Okay.
They can, a lot of these projects, because they're for, they might be eligible for incentives from either NYSERDA or the utility company because they're for energy improvements, or they could be eligible for tax credits, but the loans themselves are not subsidized. And I'm sorry, I can't give an exact answer
Okay.
yet on what the interest
That's fine.
rates are, except that we have, I think it's up to 10 capital providers now who are participating. So there will be, it is a more competitive environment for
You would
taking out a loan.
expect that they would be below, let's say, going over to Chase and saying, I need a loan, I want to put in new insulation and upgrade lighting. You would expect that? Just wondering.
Right. I mean, I think it might be, but it could also be that you'd be getting the benefit of this loan is the term that you'd be getting versus the interest rate. So I can't say for sure that it would be lower than their bank loan, but it's possible that the property owner would want to reserve their lines of credit with their bank for other purposes that they can't use PACE for.
So they spread this out a longer term, and if they sell it, it stays with the property. They're not
Correct.
obligated to it.
Exactly.
Like what happened in my house.
So,
In the future, I'm going to the town attorney. He will loan me money, so I don't have to worry about this.
And
so
I
what
don't,
would
I
the-
don't
what would-
mean to be harsh, but it just appears to me that these programs that are getting presented to the municipalities are flawed. And this is what, the third or fourth iteration of this program. It means that you have all these local laws on the books,
Right.
and they don't work.
We have to enforce them.
Well, we're trying to ascertain that, but I share your point of view. We're just trying to understand the obligations the town has
sure.
under this sort of arrangement, which is complicated. I mean, you got a 50-page contract here.
So if a property owner takes out a loan from one of our
Right.
lenders, they enter into a finance agreement with the capital provider. We have a municipal agreement with the town if you go forward with it. We also have a separate administration agreement with the capital provider that indemnifies EIC as well as the municipality. In the case that the property owner does not pay the amount of the annual PACE charge, it would be up to the capital provider to enforce that lien, and they can only do so after they pay off any delinquent municipal taxes. So that's another major change from the previous program. I do hear your point about we've been through a few iterations of this program already, so I understand there might be some fatigue on PACE. We had been operating under advisement previously that we had to place the charge on the tax bill, and that placed a lot of constraints on the type of program we put together. And honestly, it was problematic. It was not as effective as it should have been. It was more expensive because of the structure we had to build around it, and there was more risk associated with either property owner or even a municipality remitting payment. So we've now established through new legal counsel that this is a clear pathway for implementing this. NYSERDA, the state, New York State Research
Research Development Authority.
New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, thank you. They fund our operations, just so you're aware of that, and they also have been involved in the development of this program. They're on our advisory board, and they are very supportive of this new direction and are very excited at the potential for generating much larger projects that can have a significant environmental benefit for the state and for different communities. And we are seeing a lot of interest from property owners that want to use this new PACE product. And so, as I said, we do have a pipeline of projects that are waiting for these local laws to be enacted. I can't say we have one yet lined up for Somers, but the capital providers, it's their business model they're generating these projects. They have relationships with national property owners, and they're marketing their products. So they're coming to us with projects that they want to get off the ground.
Well, let me give you an example. So you're a non-for-profit.
Correct.
You have a commercial arrangement with somebody that wants to put in some upgrades that are green or whatever, right? And so they can essentially go out on themselves, finance it themselves, or you can essentially conduct those activities. Why do you need the town's consent to do that if, what's my obligation in my, why is the town involved with this?
Right, that's a good question. So this type of lien on the property, it's only authorized by the state law, Article 5L, which said that this type of clean energy financing is a public benefit, and municipalities are the only ones with the authority to offer it. So we can't actually do this on our own. If you don't pass the local law, we cannot offer PACE financing to property owners in Somers. You would need to adopt the local law, and then we, on your behalf, implement the program and administer the program, but it is a public benefit. So municipalities can opt into offering that public benefit.
So if I wanted to do this, and I can convince my mortgage holder that they would be subordinate to this improvement, right? And I would come to you and say, this improvement would be secured by my property.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm out of that. That's a private deal. And and if I default, then you put a lien on the property, just like you would do in any normal circumstance. So,
Yeah, but
so
what
I'm confused
What I'm
about.
understanding is that
They're not
when we
doing
try to
the
put
mechanics.
liens on the taxes, we can't do it. The tax department is saying we
Yeah, we're
can't.
not going to do that. That's what I'm saying. We're not going to do
They're not
that.
doing the mechanics thing at the county level, they're trying to do it at the town level.
Is that what it is? You're not doing.
Well, you
Correct,
can't,
so
by law, you can't offer it to commercial
Okay.
property in Somers unless we adopt it. Is that correct?
Correct. And it's
The liens that occur happen at the county level.
well, so we operate. It's based on tax enforcement authority, where the authority lies to enforce the tax lien. So in Westchester, it's the town.
Westchester's,
Westchester, let
no,
her
unless
finish.
it's a mechanics lien and that has to be done in the county.
Correct.
We don't put liens on property in the town of Somers. Doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen in any Westchester. It's
So if
done
they're
through the county.
delinquent,
And I'm gonna defer to my town attorney.
If they're delinquent in taxes, what happens is there's a delinquent list filed with the county every July 1st. And when you're on that list 2 years in a row, it goes to in rem foreclosure. And then the town can foreclose on the property.
correct, the
That's
town
the
would
hammer,
would
that's the hammer that
foreclose.
the town has.
Right, the town has the ability to foreclose on the property. It's not at the county. The county is not foreclosing on the property. The town is, and that's.
For non-payment of taxes, not
Correct.
for mechanics lien.
I'm not sure what you
Correct.
mean by
Yeah,
mechanics.
it's not a mechanics lien.
But if they're gonna put a lien other than a non-payment of taxes, it's gonna be a mechanics lien.
I don't think
The-
it's gonna be called that.
Or it's gonna be a county lien on your taxes, not a town.
It's gonna be filed with the
The only
county.
lien the town's gonna put is a
Correct.
non-payment of taxes.
But it's gonna be a lien filed with the county, but enforceable by the town.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to make a recommendation that we will table
this.
discussion. We can speak with our tax receiver about, these issues. And Sarah, if you have any success with any of our commercial properties, we'd certainly like to hear about it. I think I've referred you to some of the, the IBM Pepsi buildings. And, you know, we have no takers at this time, so.
Right. The slight change in our role as administrator is of the program is that we'll be directing property owners to the capital providers. So it's, which is not to say we wouldn't want to make a connection for them, but we're not going out generating the projects per se. We're channeling people to the lenders, I'm glad for all the questions, because it's definitely something we need to clearly clarify. But this is a municipal-based lien, and the state law calls it a special charge, is the language, I believe, that the municipality with tax lien authority is placing on the property. And that's why, even under the old program, our membership with EIC was based on who had the foreclosure authority. So within Westchester, our members are towns, and outside of Westchester, we represent counties and cities. But
I think I think the board, certainly myself, anything that will result in lower energy use that helps the country and the world in so many ways. Obviously, our first obligation is to make sure in no way that we could harm Somers in any way financially or in any other fashion. So I guess I would just like to explore this more.
Sure,
I mean,
of course.
if the worst thing that would happen is nobody applies for it, well, then nobody applied for it. Or if the worst thing is people apply for it and then they don't pay, we get their taxes, then all the lenders who agreed to it, well, that's up to them then how they want to sort it out. If that's the worst thing, okay.
Correct.
I just want to make sure I have all the facts
Yes.
before going forward myself.
And that's actually, the reason we have a lot more municipalities who are lining up to sign on to this program, because this, as opposed to the way it operated before, this is removing all financial risk and administrative obligations from the town or from any municipality that participates. So to that point, it's enabling you to offer this benefit of clean energy financing without getting involved directly and having that obligation. So
There are a lot
we
of
see it as a
questions.
win-win.
Well, that's what we would want, of course.
Right.
Is there other information you could provide that would, than what you have? I know we have some. With the questions that have occurred, so
I mean, we
process it a little bit.
certainly. Well, you have. I think you have the template local law and municipal agreement, and I could see if. We could certainly have our attorney reach out as well to the town attorney, and if that would help facilitate the discussion, and if there's any specific language that would help clarify things, we can.
I think to be
provide
certain that the town is under no obligation in any way that we could ever lose money. I think that's the key thing for our purposes.
Again, I agree with Rick. I think I want to talk to Michelle and see that. I
Yeah,
think that's the
yeah.
key right there, because she has some information probably that'll help us in decision-making.
Well, let's talk to Michelle and also understand, it's still not totally clear what our obligations are in the event of a failure.
Well, in the event of a failure, you are under
All right,
no.
I'm good. Sarah,
We'll
I'm
take
so
this
sorry.
offline, we'll take this offline, but
Okay, sure. I don't
I'm
want
just trying
thank you.
to clarify the point of
Okay,
concern.
so I
course.
want to thank you, Sarah, for coming in and spending some time with us on this. We obviously need to do a little more exploration. Your attorneys take another look at this, and I think you get our sense that we're troubled with some of the components. We're kind of surprised that a lender would give up a position. So to be continued.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity to present today.
Thank you for
Sarah.
coming.
Thank you. All right, next up on our agenda, this has been a long and arduous process, but we're here tonight with our consulting engineer, Joe Barbagallo, to review the sewer district plan for the town of Somers. So, Joe?
Good evening. So I'm here tonight with my colleague Ken Colburner. Fix this up too, I guess that's easier. Yes, it's been a long process, but here we are. So we've been speaking about sewers for a while in the town, in sewering Lake Lincolndale and Lake Shenorock, and the town board has authorized the proceeding forward with that project, or with those projects. The first step here is really to initiate this process to get towards an endpoint that we're seeking to get. So let me start from the end and work our way back. Our goal here is to leverage the $10 million. I'll remind the public that this project is being funded with $10 million in grant funding from the East of Hudson funds at Westchester County. We're seeking to leverage those funds through the Water Infrastructure Investment Act into additional funding. That application is due. We're working with the town's grant consultant. We've been coordinating with them on a schedule. We anticipate that WIA grant is going to be due in September timeframe, so we're working back from that point. So in order to make that grant application, we need to have formed the districts, meaning we would need to have gone through the legal process, and we've been coordinating with Roland on what that schedule looks like. And we would need to have completed the SEQR process. Okay, so we need to complete the SEQR process, we need to start the SEQR process, right? So tonight is really the start of the SEQR process. Actually, when you work through the timelines back from September, it actually puts us at tonight, that we need to really get moving on the intent to declare lead agency, for these projects.
Second.
So what we'll be working on over the next month, I'm moving, Patty, I'm moving. So what we'll be working on after this point is the preparation of the plan, map, and report and the engineering report associated with the first phase of the sewer projects. These districts that we have drawn here represent the entirety of both Shenorock and Lincolndale. And the first phase of construction will be a subset of Lincolndale and a subset of Shenorock, okay? And then there'll be subsequent projects that will come after that we will seek to incorporate the bond funding and any additional grant applications. And of course, the plan, map, and report is to lay out not only the engineering elements on how are we going to build this stuff, but the financial elements, so that the public can understand what the cost is to each of the individual homeowners. And of course, when we're putting that together, we need to take a worst case scenario, meaning an assumption that we will get no grant money. And so that lays out a worst case scenario, and then we'll back in, the numbers will get better if we are successful, which I have a suspicion we will be in certain aspects of this. So let me start by just walking through the individual districts, because we bifurcated this project a little bit from the last time that we spoke. So I'm going to move over to the map. So there's the two districts, one of which, and I think you have these maps as well. Ken, did we provide a copy of the maps?
I think they're the.
Does everybody have copies? Because
I
we
think
have
they're
extra.
the ones from last June at the Shenorock Clubhouse, but go ahead.
Look, Ken's got.
Do you have copies of them?
Tom asked me if I had them, I'm like, yeah.
Ken's got
I
additional
think so.
copies. We come prepared. I'm sorry. So what I want to talk about is the two districts. Okay. So the first district,
They're-
which what we're calling the Phase 1 sewer district, which is the one here that is in the brownish color. And my wife might tell me that's lavender. I don't know what color that is, but mauve. Maybe that's mauve. Or this brownish color.
Just created
Right.
color.
This is really the project that we're seeking to leverage the $10 million on. That incorporates a portion of Shenorock, which is right around the lake. That's about 90 properties in Shenorock. And then it incorporates another 30 or 40 or so properties around Lake Lincolndale in that base project. The reason why this part of Shenorock is connected with the district for Lincolndale is because that's all being disposed over at the Heritage Hills wastewater treatment plant.
Joe, on the map,
Yes, sir.
I see the part that's marked out. Again, on ours, it's like a darker brown
Yep.
inside of. Up in Lincolndale, where is it? Where?
It's the entirety of Lincolndale plus that brown area in Shenorock.
Oh, the entirety of
The
Lincolndale.
entirety of Lincolndale plus this brown area in Shenorock represents the Phase 1 district, the first of two districts.
Okay.
And that would be how many houses altogether?
Collectively, it's 390 houses,
Yeah.
right? That's the right number, Ken? 390 homes between Lincolndale and Phase 1 of Shenorock will be 390 homes. The initial construction will be the 90 homes in Shenorock and the 40 homes in Lincolndale. And the base and the infrastructure that will be constructed, especially will be sufficient in order to convey the flows from the entirety of Lincolndale when it's constructed.
All right, give me those numbers again. So how many in Lincolndale? 90?
So let's start from the entirety of District 1.
Which is
would-
those colored
Which would include
portions.
this colored portion and that colored portion. So the entirety
Right.
would be
Phase- Right.
the entirety of what we're calling the Phase 1 district.
Is 300.
391 properties, 393 properties.
Ooh, okay.
And that's the pink,
That's
Yeah.
the pink. We'll
It's
call it pink.
all of this.
and then that little bit there.
So that's 390,
There you go.
okay?
right in
The
pink.
first phase of construction
Is going to take,
will be at least, we're leveraging the $10 million. Hopefully we'll get another 5 to match it. But the $10 million, we know we can do the 90 properties in Shenorock, plus another 40 around the lake in Lincolndale.
so 40 there, and that 90 is the entirety of that in Shenorock? The
In
part that's
Shenorock.
marked out, that's 90 homes right there.
Correct.
And those are the most environmentally sensitive areas.
That's how those were selected to begin with.
Because they come right down to the
'Cause
lake.
it's- Yes.
Right, awesome.
All right, so that becomes the first district, and then the subset that we're constructing first is that first 130 homes that we talked about, 90 plus 40. Plus expanded as much as we can based on any grant money we get. So that becomes the first of 2 districts. And the reason why we're sending this through here and connecting it with that district is because we're doing it by disposal location, because the hope is, as we're working, and the supervisor's been working very closely with the county, is when we go to the yellow district, which would be the remainder of Shenorock, we're still intending to work with the county to get that wastewater over to Peekskill.
Oh.
And the reason why that becomes very, very critical for the town is that if we can't send all that wastewater to Lincolndale, from Shenorock to Peekskill, we're going to eat up the capacity in Heritage Hills to the point where we will not be able to sewer Purdy's. So the only way we get all 3 lake communities is if we can get the county to agree to take the remainder of Shenorock and send it over to Peekskill.
What's the likelihood of that? Have you had any preliminary conversations?
I mean, the
with them?
supervisor can comment on that. I mean, it's a
Guarantees
process.
It's always a challenge.
So back in
There you go. We got it done.
1997, when these monies were put aside by the Department of Environmental Protection from New York City, the county was holding these funds. Lake Lincolndale and Shenorock were incorporated in the initial plan. Over the years, that $10 million allocated to 5 municipalities has grown with interest. There have been projects. North Salem, for one, drew down their $10 million in addition to grants that they got, and they sewered all of Peach Lake. So my position with the county is going to be, I have 3 lake communities. They all suffer from small lots with septic systems on it. And it's not a matter of if, it's when these systems are going to fail.
We had 2 failed this week, for example.
Just
in
this
Shenorock.
week in Shenorock, we had 2 failures. So I'm going to go to the county and say, I have 3 lakes. You tell me that I can't do Purdy's because you're not going to let us, which was originally supposed to happen, for Shenorock wastewater to go to Peekskill. So, it's like having, 3 children. I'm not going to make that choice. And I'm looking for guidance from the county. So I'm going to fight that fight, but the initial stage of this, once again, is securing our $10 million from the DEP.
Right, and that's the
And-
reason why the districts are split up the way that why they are, so that we can, make progress in both communities, leveraging the 10 million while we're working out how we're going to dispose of the rest of the wastewater in Peekskill.
And Purdy's, that is that's right by the reservoir.
Right.
It's not just about Lake Purdy's. This is about the water quality. That's a strong argument
Correct.
to make that the DEP certainly would
Correct.
be behind.
Yeah.
I would think would be behind, especially because we tried to do something over there before that didn't happen to work.
So I can tell you that, yes, sir.
If we're successful in getting it to Peekskill, then all of Lincolndale and the initial part of Shenorock would still go to Heritage.
Correct.
When Purdy's comes in, would that more or less max out Heritage?
Yes.
I mean, that would max out the Heritage?
That and the historic district would max out the.
And that takes into consideration the Boniella properties and the
Yes. Yep.
and the stores
Yep.
over here, okay.
We got enough room for it all, but not much beyond that.
Okay,
And that's why we consider the Heritage Hills Sewer Treatment Plant a
vital
resource
For the town.
and something that we
Yeah, no, that
want to
makes-
use.
Right.
That makes
And I
sense.
do think as it relates to the county, we, not only in addition to the arguments that the supervisor laid out is, originally, when the preserves was built and all those force mains were put in to send that wastewater to Peekskill, that plan was conceptualized to include all of Lincolndale and all of Shenorock to go to Peekskill, right? And of course,
And that's more recent, even in that
98,
set
that was 1998 was that study, right? The Divinity Tung Schwang, it was a 1998 study is when that was done. I can tell you that our some of the conversations we've had with legislators they viewed it have incredibly positive that we've removed Lincolndale from that flow, and I think that they will continue to look at it positive by removing this first little bit of Shenorock from that flow. So I think we have a really good argument to make for all the reasons. I actually just ran into legislator Kaplowitz, and he's not going to be here to help us run across the finish line, but he did say that he thought we had a good shot.
Well, we're all in agreement. We hope other people will be.
So what's the time frame here, just for
So
the
these
public?
are the two districts. There's
we
one
need to
thing that I want you
establish.
that I think the board should consider on the districts. Now, when we drew this line for these districts, this Shenorock district, I want to focus in on for a second. And this is not a decision we need to make tonight. I mean, to circulate for lead agency, but I want the board to think about this because this is something we should contemplate, which is, I remember when we were talking about sewers originally, and we had public hearings, there was a fair amount of folks that came out at one point. And I noticed that a lot of those folks were from the Horton Estates area, right? And the Horton Estates area are a little larger lots than they are, and that is an area that the board might want to think about removing from the sewer district if we think that that makes sense. That's an area that would be easy enough for us to remove.
Take off.
So I would just ask the board to think about that, contemplating where we had, maybe we can have a couple of subsequent discussions. It doesn't need to happen this evening. I figured we'd circulate for the broadest, and if we narrow during the process, that would be okay. I've cleared that all with Surratt, but that's an area I think we should be talking
How
about.
many properties does
In
that
Horton?
remove?
It's like 20 or 30 properties. It's not that many.
I think Horton Estates is 50.
50?
And the reason for that is simply they may not favor it.
Well, because if you remember, the back end, getting to the timeline, is that the board is going to, maybe Roland wants to comment on this, by the time we get to the end of the CEQA process, the board is going to make a determination on the creation of this district.
Right.
And then that becomes potentially challengeable. And given the people who came out, were not in
Yeah, I
favor,
know.
tend to be that
I
area, it
know.
would not be a bad idea to get them out,
See,
basically.
there are two ways to form a district.
Right.
One is on petition,
Right.
hard in this instance because you have so many properties,
Right.
but 51% of the assessed value of the residential properties would control.
Remember that well.
And then the town board would take it from there, acting on the petition. And if the requisite number of signatures was met, then there's no possibility of a referendum at a later date because you worked off the petitions. The second way, and the way I think you're moving in this matter, is the board would form the districts on your own motion without petition. And when you do it that way, it means that once we publish, after you pass your first resolution, preliminary resolution of approval, there is a 30-day period when the affected property owners could petition you for a referendum. And then if the referendum petition was accurate and sufficient, you'd have to call for an election within that proposed district,
An election for,
whether or not to form the
okay,
district.
all right.
In the first option,
Yeah, the one we did
is it
before.
51% of the assessed value and 51% of the property owners themselves, or just 51% of the assessed value, regardless how many property owners that might be?
Correct.
Okay.
So we-
And you've had meetings going around these lake communities.
Well, yes,
And, thinking back to that Purdy's thing, you know, I always come back to that because that was a good project that should have gone through. We just didn't probably set the groundwork enough. I would think that would be a priority for us, setting the groundwork, people understand why it's good. Obviously, cost is always the factor.
Right.
I mean, is that something we should do more of, or are we
Yeah,
done it?
so that's an excellent point for bringing up. So part of the schedule includes, let's walk through the entire schedule. So this evening, it's declaring intent to be lead agency. In June, in the first meeting in June, we intend to come in front of you with about a 90% plan that we will go through and we'll present to the board. Receive your comments in the first meeting with an expectation that we can address them by the second meeting, and then by the second meeting of June, we'll have a complete report that we can then circulate, that we could then make available to the public and set public hearings. In July, public hearings, and August public hearings. On a parallel path with those public hearings, and in advance of those, we talked about having two informational sessions in each community, one in July and one in August for each community, so that we can have public informational sessions in addition to the formal secret public hearings. Now, in advance of that, Ken is meeting with the committee next Thursday, right? So next Thursday, May 9th, there's a meeting of the Lake of this committee, and we're going to talk to them about what kind of information should we be getting out. They know their constituents, and they're going to help us define the public.
Yeah.
The public outreach campaign is going to help to be guided by the local residents.
But Joe, you've been having a public outreach campaign as we've gone
I mean,
along,
Ken, how many
right?
times have you met with them? 4 or 5 times
And,
already.
Yeah,
was
over-
Horton
over
Estate-
years,
so-
too.
And was Horton Estates part of that sort of socialization process?
It's only been as part, no, because we've been talking really at the context of Shenorock context.
So I get it, so then that becomes a surprise if in fact we were
Right,
to
right.
bring that in there.
So that's why
Which is why you're thinking we should.
that's why I'm thinking
Cut it.
that we should, because it's not really part of Shenorock proper. We included it last time for environmental reasons. There are environmental benefits for doing Horton, but I think that money is probably, would have a bigger effect in other areas, frankly.
Let me ask a question, though. You're putting in sort of the main lines coming in and not necessarily all the connections, right? When you create a sewer district, you have to bill your constituents. Now, once the main line goes in, are you billing the entire district for the main line? So all the outliers in this yellow area will now get a sort of a utility bill?
Right. So let's talk about it. Let's
And
talk about
that's
it in the
why it's
context.
important.
Let's talk about it in the context of. Let's talk about the Phase 1 district, the pink district instead, right?
Okay,
Instead of the
fine.
Shenorock. So when we build that district, we're going to leverage the $10 million and any grant money we have. So our borrowing for our first project will be zero. Okay? So we're going to form a district, the pink district. We're going to form the district, but we're going to have zero borrowing. We're going to go and build those projects, and when we're done, anybody who's connected will have to contribute towards the operation and maintenance costs of that project.
But not the initial outlay.
There's no
because that's
initial
$10
outlay of
million
money.
that we're using.
However, now let's talk about when we build out the rest of it.
Right.
When we build out the rest of it, let's say we built out the rest of it to make my point, in two additional phases. When we did the next phase, the property owners in that next phase, and let's assume we're going to have to encumber some borrowing to do that, which is likely, that borrowing gets spread across the entire district.
Yes.
The people who were in Phase 1 who already are operating and have sewers, the people who would be in Phase 2 that are getting sewers,
They'll still
and
pick up.
also in Phase 3, the people who do not have sewers will have to contribute towards the capital
Right.
contribution. And then once you connect, you're paying the O&M along
So
the
what
way.
I'm asking, though, in that first district, that first description, is there the possibility that there'll be homeowners paying an O&M charge while not having
No.
any connection?
Not in the
No.
first phase.
Not
You-
in the first phase?
Not in any case.
Oh, no,
Okay.
you just said, I thought you just said it in the third phase.
And
Well, he's
they might be paying
differentiating operating and
not the
maintenance
O&M.
capital.
They would
Not
be,
the O&M, but they'll have to.
they would have to pay towards the
initial.
capital, the
You
bond
only pay
issue.
O&M when you connect.
Connect, correct. You're only paying the O&M when you connect, but once you're in the district, the bonding gets spread across the entirety of the
Right,
district.
Right.
So in the
And if you-
initial phases, there's no borrowing, and then, that's why it's better when we do the second phase, it's probably better to just do it in one big chunk, because then it's just one borrowing, and there's nobody who's paying and doesn't get. Everybody will
It's
get.
over.
So I'm going to make a suggestion, since we have a very tight timeline on getting the phase one completed, that while we're meeting, maybe we should outreach, Ken, maybe to the Horton Estates, find out who the association is over there, before we just lob them off. I mean, they may see the benefit of having sewers, increasing property values, getting rid of restrictions on, home expansion. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to being in
So
the sewer.
we'll make sure that we reach out in the interim and come, be able to share that information with the board next time we get
Can
together.
you create a separate sewer district for that section?
Well, you could.
I mean, so
But
it
this-
gives you the opportunity to.
Well, let's put it this way. If, let's say they weren't a part of it now and we formed the rest of the district.
come
the way
back
that-
later.
In the future, we could
Come
modify
back
the
and
district to
modify
expand
right.
it.
But you don't want to do anything now that's sort of going to impede the process. I
Well,
understand.
what I'm just trying to do is to just not do this in, not stand here in a vacuum, right? I mean, we did go through this. When we have 660 communities that are inside of this yellow, 660 homes, that are inside of that yellow box. And I would say, of the dozen people who showed up, I think a dozen of them were from Horton Estates at the time, or at least 10 of them. There seemed to be a lot of concern in the Horton Estates area, which is why I think that it's warranted to go back and check in with them.
Were they favorable or unfavorable for the sewer district?
My recollection was that they were concerned about having to pay the costs of the sewer district. And
They were unfavorable.
They were
So
unfavorable.
typically, when we have these meetings, it's the opposition that shows up.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what always happens, yeah.
That's what always happens. Part of you socializing this is to sort of generate
Right.
interest and see.
I think
where
based
the
on
other
past
side of it.
history, Joe's 100% right. We should talk to him and,
Yeah, absolutely.
possibly readjust it, and then we can go talk to him in the future if we need to.
If they wanted to expand.
Let me just, a quick question, Roland. So one of the ways we could do it, as you said, is by our motion.
Correct.
Now, if we do that by our motion, and then they come to, is it a simple 51% again from their standpoint if they want to challenge it?
No, the petition, I believe, consists of only 5% of those who voted in the last gubernatorial election.
Oh, really?
Same
So
like
it's a much
the,
smaller number.
Same.
Yeah,
like-
that's
And
very
I
small.
think that's actually been reduced to 3%, hasn't it?
Oh, someone mentioned that,
Well,
yes.
for
Yeah.
petitions, yeah.
Yeah, for
To get on the
petitions.
ballot.
Yeah, I don't know if that applies to permissive
Okay.
referendums.
Joe, so the question came up when we had those hearings, and a guy just asked me this probably 2 weeks ago if this went through. So, well, I've just put in a septic system. Am I going to pay twice? And so the answer will be he doesn't have to connect,
He doesn't have to pay the O&M, but he's going to have to pay the
pay the
capital.
capital for the future.
Because his
Unless he's in the
property is
first
benefit,
phase.
because his property,
Right.
even
Right.
though he may not take advantage of the benefit,
It's a
the fact
benefit.
that the pipe is in
Right.
front of his house is a benefit
Right,
to
so when he
that
sells the
property.
house, hey, look, buddy, you can buy this house, we did the septic,
Yeah.
but hey, you can,
Hey, you may not like this 2-bedroom house, but if you buy it, you can make it a 3-bedroom because there's a sewer in the front of the
right,
house.
okay.
But
Just
Joe,
want to make sure I got the right
in
answer.
the first phase, where we're using grant money, I think everybody has to connect.
Well, we're going to connect everybody
Because
in
I
the
think
first
it's
phase.
It's a condition of the grant, you'll see.
Oh.
Yeah.
So everybody in the first phase,
And we remember we talked about making that.
But one of the benefits of that,
because you're using grant money.
but the
Yeah.
benefit of that, though, to them is it's going to still be less expensive because they're not going to have to pay for the installation or everything. It's just going to be the connection fee and then the O&M.
Right, and remember, we talked
Until
about.
There's a borrowing for the second phase.
Down the road, right.
And the first
Right.
phase starts.
But again,
to
this is
pay.
a pretty, looking at it, this is a pretty big chunk of infrastructure.
All right, what do we need to do tonight?
So this evening,
have an
Patty,
agenda
did
for
Patty
that,
whisper in your? So this evening, what we're looking to do is to just circulate the notice of intent to declare lead agency and get it out to, I've had Saret take a look at the list. All the agencies are appropriate. We've prepared the EAF. So the EAF, the map, and the notice will be circulated upon the board's motion to do so. And then next June, you will be in a position to declare yourself lead agency. On the June 6th meeting, you'll be able to declare lead agency, and then we can initiate the secret process, start reviewing the work, and then hopefully by very short order, we'll be able to have a complete application, and then we can go ahead out to public hearings.
The one thing I think I would suggest is that the people who are in the initial phase who don't have to pay to be hooked up, Now, other people are going to say, oh, well, they didn't pay, why do I pay? I think making it very clear that you're targeting, one, it's a condition of the grant. Two, it's targeted at those who have the most environmentally, potentially the most environmental impact
Right,
and the most environmentally sensitive area. So it's not capricious, it's not arbitrary, it's not personal.
Right.
This is just science. And I
Right.
think that would be really important
Yeah,
for people.
and I think part of it is, I mean, we've talked about, the option of the town paying for the entirety of the connection to be, take it right up to the foundation, But we may want to think about, should there be a nominal fee, a connection fee? And I think that that's something we have to work out as part of the plan map and
I think that's
report.
something we could think.
We could
should
add
I think
think
we
more
should be
homes.
thinking about some kind of a nominal fee to help, you start collecting a nominal fee of a couple $100, $500 times, the amount of homes, you probably can connect up another bunch of homes, and so we got to look at that balance.
Yeah.
That's part of our work with the plan map and report.
Right.
Joe, just a real quick question out of curiosity. On the EAFs, is Anglefly not on there under what Park served because we don't own it wholly?
I don't know, with the Anglefly.
We have, on the EAF, under what Park served the project site, you have Cagle, Reese, Van Tassel, Vincent Zappi, West Somers. I just didn't know if Anglefly was not included.
I don't think it was purposely excluded. We should. So why don't we,
Okay.
we can
No, I'm
add
just curious. It
Anglefly.
was
Well, we
just-
can add Anglefly to the list and put it on the EAF for tomorrow's circulation.
Okay. Thanks.
I don't know if the board, if anybody had any other comments on the EAF.
Looks pretty straightforward.
No.
Oh,
All right, well, I think we're at a point, it's been a long road, and that our money is still sitting in abeyance down there in the county, and
So let's
I have
do
a
it.
sense that there's a lot of grabbing going on, and I want to be out in the forefront here. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to declare ourselves,
No.
our
Circulate notice of
intention,
intent, yeah?
our
Our
intention
intention
to
to
be lead agency for Lake Lincolndale and Shenorock Phase 1.
And Lake Shenorock Phase 2, you can do it in one.
I can do it in one?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's one
So
document.
Phase 1 and Phase 2 for Lincolndale and Shenorock, declare the town board's intention to act as lead agency.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Well, thank you so much. Patty, Ken will be in touch tomorrow with final documents. Okay? Ken will be in touch tomorrow with final documents, okay?
Okay, and we're going to add to that the Anglefly.
Yes,
So
we're going to
you-
add Anglefly to that list, and Ken had one other modification that he made. And we will take the action item to connect with the residents in Horton Estates as part of this process over the next month, and come to you with the recommendation for whether to include or not to include that area and the rationale behind that in our June meeting.
Great.
But you don't want Anglefly added to the district.
No.
No,
No, it's-
Listed as-
On the EAF, I just want to list it as a park that services
Towns are
that.
not exempt from sewer.
Yeah, no, understood. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says all the parks except Anglefly.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Ken,
guys.
thanks for your work on this. I know
Thank
you're
you.
working very hard for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Joe, you too. Okay, the next item on our agenda is Highway, and they're requesting permission to purchase two vehicles. They sound like they're the same vehicle with different prices. The reason being that the $86,000 one has a dump body, and the $87,000 vehicle has a utility body, which is more expensive.
Yeah, that explains it.
So,
I was reading this, I was just curious, is this part of the budget that they've already had an approval for, or is this new funding that they need?
this is part of CHIPS and part of their budget. So I'm going to make a motion to approve to to purchase these vehicles.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we know if we're
Okay.
going to be disposing of anything are these
No.
replacements? Or?
I'm gonna go be a grandpa if it's okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh,
You're
all
good
right.
now.
Be safe, drive.
Have fun.
Yeah, drive safe,
Good luck.
Roland.
Bring an apple in the morning.
Watch the snowflakes.
Have fun, Roland.
Okay, so personnel? current vacancies on our Affordable Housing Board, Partners in Prevention. We have an upcoming vacancy on the Affordable Housing Board for a 1-2-year term ending July 11th, 2019. It's coming up very quickly. And the rest of these I'm going to read are going to go on our consensus agenda, but knowledge hiring of Anthony Giantoni.
Denied.
Okay.
Maybe you shouldn't have read it.
Full-time road maintainer. Yeah, these guys are already hired as road maintainer. Authorized hiring of Ms. Loretta Puglisi as a permanent part-time assessment clerk. So Teresa finally has someone to help her over there.
Very highly recommended, I might add.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, very nice. I met her last week, or earlier this week, I guess.
Okay. And continuing on. Authorize the temporary appointment of Ms. Maria Ruijek?
Rukaj.
Rukaj, office assistant for the building department at her current hourly rate of $15.26.
Let's see if he gets his name right.
And authorize the reappointment of Miss Teresa Stegner, town assessor, for a 6-year term ending September 30th, 2025, and that would take effect in October. So I'm moving all these to the consensus agenda, and we'll move those next week. Okay.
Ms. Stegner is an excellent assessor, as we all know, and is one of the leaders in the state. We're lucky to have her and to keep her.
Right, isn't she the head of the,
I believe that is true, yeah.
I don't know if the State Assessors? or
Something
the
like that.
State Assessors Association.
I know when the county has had a question about assessments, they've called her. They've called Teresa
Sorry.
from the county.
Oh, I thought you got Teresa on the
Yeah.
on the
I
line
did.
there.
Hey,
Okay.
Was
Teresa.
FaceTiming over there?
No, just getting out of the agenda.
Okay, any questions on the proposed consensus agenda?
And there's only 4 items then.
1 through 4, and it's going to grow by those.
That's
Okay.
next week.
I do have one item 4.
5?
It'll go to consensus agenda, but May is National Historic Preservation Month in the town of Somers. And we are joining communities across the country this month by declaring May National Preservation Month. This initiative was established more than 40 years ago by the National Trust for Historic Preservation to raise public awareness and support for the social and economic benefits of historic preservation. As we all well know, we have a historic district that was established. That district was established to protect the buildings that are in it and the environs around it. We have a listing of the building we're in. Having this meeting tonight is on the National Historic Landmark. It's important to note that the National Preservation Month is a creation of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Our Elephant Hotel, our Wright Reese Homestead, which was donated to us in 1967. Later acquisition of the Mount Zion, Tomahawk Chapel, the Elephant Hotel, Police Barracks, Van Tassel Memorial House over the past number of years. Highlight the current properties under our possession. And we do have an active Historic Properties Board, and their obligation is to address and maintain things that need to be done on our properties. The Society in the past 3 years alone has spent more than $4,000 with plastering and repainting interiors at the homestead. So we're going to formally declare, well, we can do that tonight, I believe. I'll make a motion to declare May 2019 as National Historic Preservation Month in the town of Somers.
Second. Vote on that?
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. And I'm going to make a suggestion that if I arrange for a tour of our properties, If town board members would like to join me?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so I will contact the Historic Properties Board and arrange a tour.
Hey, we're lucky to live in a town that has a lot of history behind it. Would you want to live in a town that doesn't have any history, that interesting stories and a heritage that we all take on and assume and take care of until we pass it on? That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I spoke at a...
Since it was World Circus Day on Sunday.
Yeah, it was. I spoke at a chamber meeting earlier the end of last month, and one of the stories I told was about the Rhinoceros Preserve and why it's called the Rhinoceros Preserve, and the fact that the old stone house used to be the home of one of the menagerie owners, and the barn, he kept the rhinoceros, and they would bring the rhinoceros down to the creek and water it, every day. One day it got loose, ran down into the hamlet, and it took 6 horses to convince it to come back to the barn. So, yeah, we are rich in
See, there's
rich
a
in
good
history.
story. There's a good story about Somers.
Okay, so our next regularly scheduled meeting will be May 9th, the Town Board regular meeting at 7 p.m. here. We're going to have a public hearing on the proposed fees for Amawak Heights and Amawak, Shenorock, and Windsor Farm water districts, and a public hearing on the proposed conservation easement for the Merritt Park subdivision on Lovell Street and Addison Way in the town of Somers. I have a number of announcements.
Wow.
I'm not allowed to do them anymore.
I think you should.
Patty was good at
Patty was
that.
great.
She was. It's like professional
You're not-
over
Like,
there.
you're done.
Can I make a motion?
You're not allowed, or you?
Do you have an announcement
I
down there
didn't-
that
I
Patty is
didn't
doing
review them.
announcements?
I do. I have an announcement. Patty's going to do announcements. But I think I was overruled by the supervisor.
You have the jacket though.
I do.
Yeah. So.
All right, you know what? I'll run through these.
He's got it. I showed him. I showed him how it's done.
See, I can compromise. Here we go. So, Sunday is Meals and Wheels up at the high school.
Yes.
This is the junior class, I think, is fundraising.
Tommy's class of 2020.
$10 a car. So if you have a sports car, a car of interest, a rat rod, resto mod, historic car, get it up there, and I understand there's going to be a number of food trucks.
Yeah, that's what it is.
there's-
Food trucks,
you'd be-
games, I think a
You'd be
DJ.
surprised how many foodies there are that really
It's true.
follow these food trucks.
Is a Hyundai Elantra the type of car they're looking for? Up there?
No, they're not.
No.
They'll turn you
All right,
around
I'm
at the
just
entrance.
asking. Just asking.
You will get turned around at the entrance.
I think they'll pay you $10 not to. Okay, the Somers annual spring town-wide cleanup is well underway. Orange garbage bags and gloves are available at the townhouse and the library. And I want to thank all the Somers residents who have been out there. I've seen you cleaning up our roadsides.
So please be on the lookout. I came around the reservoir the other day and there were people out in the reservoir doing it. So just keep an eye out because these people are going on all the streets cleaning them up and we don't want to put them in any danger.
Correct. Last Saturday, the Somers Litter Task Force was in the pavilion handing out gloves and bags and vests. So if you need a vest to work with, you can sign one out by contacting the Somers Litter Task Force. So the Somers Vendor Fair and Tag Sale is being sponsored by the Volunteer Fire Department. That's going to be held this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So it's a giant tag sale happening right down the street here. Go in and pick up some deals. St. Luke's Church Annual Spring Plant Sale. This is a very popular event in town, Saturday, May 4th to Sunday, May 12th. Weekends from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., weekdays from 10:30 to 4:30 at the St. Luke's Episcopal Church, 331 Route 100. The Somers High School PTSA Class of 2020, that's the Wheels and Meals.
Again, it's so important we're talking about it twice.
Okay. Yeah, if I plug them toys, I'll have to plug everybody. Okay.
No, we're giving them back to
Start
Patty
from the
then.
beginning.
There you go. Town of Somers Annual Memorial Day Parade, I want to remind you, Monday, May 27th, 10 a.m. parade begins. Marchers should meet at the Somers Middle School lot by 9:30 on that day. Remembrance ceremony will be immediately following the parade at Veterans Memorial in the Ivandale Cemetery. And this year, the Somers Volunteer Fire Department has stepped up and taken over this event from the vets.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, so
very good.
our thanks to the Somers Volunteer Fire Department, and I believe Ed Burns, who did it the years past for the veterans, is going to take the lead. A screening of Resilient, the biology of stress and the science of hope, is a program that's going to be presented at the library Tuesday, May 28th at 7 p.m., presented in partnership with the Somers Partners in Prevention, the Somers Library, the Resilient Coalition, and the Westchester Library System. Any other comments on that?
I
Not on the library.
I have an announcement to make. I can't believe you forgot this announcement. We'd like to wish a very happy birthday to our town clerk.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
Let's see if she'll turn red. Oh, yes.
Who
And then-
seconded it?
Yes,
Somers red.
I had a
And
big,
second.
I had a big asterisk at the
Sorry.
end of the.
And
Yes.
then I think we should, I know we're going to close the meeting and go into executive
Yeah.
session.
I still have two more
Oh,
announcements.
sorry, go ahead. So I thought you said you were done.
No, I didn't say that. No. So getting a U.S. passport just got easier. Tuesday, June 11th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Reese Park, 82 Primrose Street. Westchester County Clerk Timothy Iadoni's communication outreach staff can take your photo and process your passport application on site. It'll save you a trip down county. So
So that's renewal as well as new?
I believe so. Save the date, Somers Independence Day Block Party. This year, we're returning to Sebastian Capitol Campus, Route 135. Pull-up park party for Patriots. They're celebrating and honoring World War II, Korean, and Vietnam vets this year. It's going to be better than last year. More food trucks, music, kid zones, fireworks, and more. And you can get tickets at somersblockparty.com.
Is not the Lions track meet this weekend?
The Lions track meet is this week.
Yes.
Starting tomorrow,
Very
actually.
good.
Starts
starts
tomorrow night.
Tomorrow, unfortunately,
Yeah,
it's
it's
going to rain.
the discus, and it rains
Hammer
for that
throw.
event, and these kids tough it out.
Best athletes.
So it's
all in the
4:30
area will
on
be coming.
Friday, and I think it begins at 1 p.m. on Saturday.
Oh, because of the SATs.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot this.
That's right.
And it goes,
Day event.
until the javelin is finished.
Many excellent athletes, including Valhalla Vikings, will be there.
Come out and support your favorite Tusker.
Yes, indeed. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters, not to return, yes.
Before you're done, can we have a moment of silence for Paul Green?
That's right.
Yes, we.
Paul Green, when I first got elected to the town board, I was a liaison to the volunteer fire department, and at the time, I believe Paul Green was a commissioner. He worked for the water department for many, many years. Everybody always saw him around town. He was always quick to respond to a problem. He was also in the, I think it was the Army National Guard.
Yeah.
Just a good man, so I'll let the supervisor.
Town is lost.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me about his passing.
And Ross and Dom Narcisco, too.
Yeah, and let me talk about Paul first.
Sorry.
He was involved with the Puerto Rico hurricane relief. He got a leave of absence from the town, spent a lot of time doing that. He's been ill for a while. He got a doctor's note. He came back, didn't want to sit home, and came back to work. I was talking to him. We were doing the stormwater retrofits over in Lake Shenorock, and he was in the office on the computer. We talked for a while, and the man was a fighter.
A good guy.
and a really, really decent individual.
Just a super nice guy.
So on Saturday, I think it was, I got a call from the volunteer fire department and said that Paul is being released from the hospital and that they were going to welcome him back to his home. So up on Ross Drive, they lined the street with fire trucks, ambulance, fire chiefs from Millwood came by. I stopped up there as well, and I just want to say that there's a strong brother and sisterhood in the Somers Volunteer Fire Department. They welcomed him home, and later on that evening he passed away. So, and another very disturbing passing was of Dom Narcisco, local high school coach. He was part of the coaching team that brought the Tuskers to a state championship. He was a phys ed teacher at Primrose, and my granddaughter Cecilia got to know him because when I would drop her off at school, Dom was one of the monitors that would greet the child, hold their hand, and walk them up to the school. So Dom and Paul, Godspeed, rest in peace, and if you join all of us in a moment of silence.
I was lucky enough to know Dom. He taught both of my kids, and I actually played in a football league with him for quite a few years. He was a phenomenal athlete. The kids loved him. The kids on the high school team loved him. Just the nicest guy, and really, really good with the kids. It was funny. He would transition from teaching at Primrose to coaching a high school football team, which the actions are probably a bit different between the two vastly different age groups, but he always put the kids first, and he is going to be sorely, sorely missed. He was.
Okay, moment of silence, please. Thank you. So I have a motion to adjourn the meeting and to retire into executive session, not to return to the meeting,
To discuss personnel.
for personnel matters.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Good night, Somers.